Hello, hello, and welcome to Pink Poets in the Know, first ever poetry recital. I'm Nadia Giordana. We have 8 poets here this evening who are going to be reading for you, and we are so happy that you came to be our audience. Please be kind to us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. First up, we will have Mary Kay Crawford. Mary Kay Crawford has been surviving isolation and a long Minnesota winter, waiting for the next snowfall to create a pristine landscape through her quiet downtown streets. Poetry allows her moments of reflection and discovery, even with the austere simplicity of a late afternoon walk when all she hears is the softened crunch of freshly fallen snow underfoot.
Thank you, Nadia. I wrote this poem, the first one for my mother, Janet Crawford, when she was hospitalized with a serious illness. Happy to say she did recover. I worked on this poem for 1 entire year before submitting it to Wink magazine. It was accepted and my first poem published in Wink magazine. Being published was a joyous boost of confidence to my creative spirit. 1 year later, I find that I am more decisive with my choice of words and determined to complete a prose poem with a turnaround of just under a month. Big accomplishment for me. So my first poem, Snow for Janet. Pale whispers of falling snow, quiet city streets, shimmering in twilight. Silhouette of trees, thin black edge of cascading branches, in pious surrender to a translucent flocking from the beckoning reach of wintry sky. Austere beauty, kindred spirit to angels' sweep of white-winged flight. Soft-spoken chorus of snow for Janet. Sanctified and lowering to earth, to call her back, to welcome her home, to lay heaven beside her. And my second poem I wrote last March when the snow was hopefully leaving. It was a mess out here. So I called it Marching Orders. Snow is everywhere, dirty, melting, fed up snow, looking for the nearest exit, sloppy, light absorbing puddles, drawing this burdensome season through the gutter and down the sewer. Winter's preoccupation with showy wanderings no longer delight us, wasting our time with a diminished presence. We are weary, the slow, long goodbye, ambivalent, awkward, now but a frozen boot print sculpted into a snowbank. The end. Thank you.
Next up, we have Gloria Fredkove. Gloria Fredkove wrote her first poem when she was 8 years old. Her writing has taken many forms, including a full-length play, essays, and a memoir in progress titled Casual Baggage, which she hopes to complete in the year 2022. You have
Thank
the
you,
floor.
Nadia. Thank you, Nadia. My intro is pretty short. My zodiac sign is Taurus, which is an earth sign. I love living in the woods of Minnetonka, and gazing at the forest in my backyard keeps me centered to the importance of nature in our world, and it inspires me all the time to write. So this poem is about trees in my backwoods. It's called Neighboring Trees. From my bed, I see a small cluster of trees, standing proud and tall, Generously, they open their arms to the wind and to owls and blackbirds and even me as I witness their humble and sweet nature. Without complaint, they share their rough skin and hair with squirrels and mice and birds and bugs. Who doesn't need a home in winter? Who doesn't need to borrow shelter now and then? When you and I need shelter, we may cut them down, turn them into useful things like houses, firewood, tables, and even replicas of birds. But the trees I see from our windows are safe. They are in our backwoods, and there they will remain. I love how their bodies curl and bend and stretch to the sky, how their branches flow gently outward by design, how their leaves, like children, grow, mature, finally fall away. Next to our deck, there is a huge old oak tree. It must be 100 years old and heavy with roots. It has seen and heard so much, and for the most part is quiet. Every few years, though, its acorns crash onto the wood slats of our deck. Like gunshots, the acorns land with a pop, pop, pop. Oh, I say, as they make themselves heard, so you do have something to say. Quite understandable.
Wonderful. That was great, Gloria.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jan Strootman. Jan is a retired kindergarten teacher who is finishing a book called Child Heart, which is a compilation of stories about teaching in Minnesota, Hong Kong, Belarus, and Slovakia. Her work has been published in MinPost, Cathay Pacific Magazine, and Wink Magazine. She lives in Bloomington, Minnesota, with her husband, Benny, and little dog, Ellie. She enjoys her writing groups that include WOW, Women of Words, Pink, Poets in the Know, and taking classes at the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Nadia. The poems in Child Heart are written in haibun form, which is, very simply put, prose writing with a haiku at the end. The haibun I will read is called Ducks Unlimited. It tells about my first experience hatching duck eggs with my kindergarten class. Ducks Limited. In the spring, we hatched duck eggs. After our ducklings were partly grown, we gave them to a local farmer. I went into school on weekends to sweep, change the bedding on the floor of the pen, refill water and food troughs, and make sure the warming lights were operating properly. Our first year progressed properly and well. The ducklings hatched, and we watched as they learned to waddle around their pen, drink water, eat grain, and grow feathers. There were 3, so we named them Huey, Dewey, and Louie, after Donald Duck's 3 cartoon ducklings. One Saturday morning, I went into school to clean the pen. I couldn't let the ducklings have the run of the classroom, so I put them in a Rubbermaid plastic tub in the sink. I ran water to fill half the tub, and the ducklings quacked noisily, happy to be swimming around. I turned my back and began sweeping the poop-infused wood shavings from the floor. I worked for a few minutes and then noticed that the ducklings weren't quacking anymore. What? I looked around at the sink, and all 3 ducklings were limp and had their heads hanging over the edge of the tub. Oh no. I raced over and noticed they were not breathing. I grabbed the first duckling to see where I might possibly do mouth to beak resuscitation. I also massaged the little duckling's heart Was it in the same place as ours? After 3 little breaths, it opened its eyes and started breathing. I put it back in the water and it immediately started to flounder. I realized I had put too much water in the tub, and the ducklings had gotten worn out paddling because they couldn't touch the ground. I quickly dumped out some water and put the duckling back. He seemed okay, so I grabbed the second duckling and gave it mouth-to-beak resuscitation. It took longer, but it finally came around too. Unfortunately, the third one had been unresponsive for too long. I felt awful. I took the dead duckling, put it in a garbage bag, and set it by the door. The 2 remaining ducklings started quacking again. I put them under the lights to help them dry off a little. I sat down in my chair and tried to stop shaking. Had I really put my mouth over a duckling's beak twice? I sat there and thought about how to explain this to my students. I thought of telling them that Huey decided to visit his aunt who lived down the street, or that he went to live with his grandma in Bemidji, or that he had turned into Super Duck and flew over to McCarran's Lake. But I ended up telling them the truth. I put the dead duckling in the staff freezer next to my room and made it a point to get to school first on Monday to take it out. I didn't think my colleagues would enjoy knowing their lunch entree was keeping company with Huey. We took it outside and buried it in the school courtyard. We made a headstone for it out of paper towel tubes. When it started to disintegrate, I told them the headstone and ducklings were making grass for new plants to grow. Trial and error failed. Life science is sometimes not Ducks Unlimited. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Teresa Fouché. Teresa Fouché is our next poet, and her work has appeared on stage and in print. Her first poem ever submitted was accepted for the second issue of Wink magazine in 2017, 4 years ago. Since then, a variety of her work has been published in every issue, including watercolor, line art, photography, poetry, and prose. Even links to her music available at positivevibes.com. She discovered she was a rule-breaking creative in kindergarten when she unintentionally wrecked her art assignment by refusing to cage her tiger. She literally set her paper tiger free by pasting it in front of the cage instead of behind it, like everyone else, as displayed by the teacher for the whole class to see. Yep, that happened. Now let's see what happens next, and let's give a warm welcome to Teresa Fouché.
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'll tell you about my 2 poems and then head straight into them. The first poem I'll read tonight was offered as a challenge by Nadia. She heard a friend use the phrase unintentional wrecking ball at her Bible study group to describe people and their lives. Nadia wrote a poem and then challenged us to do the same. The second poem is titled Friends Like These, and it's about late night visitors and the morning after, based on a true story. Unintentional wrecking ball. It hurts to see the damage I've done, the hearts wounded from battles I've won. I took each step with best intentions on this road to hell or maybe perdition. But wait, I have not yet passed through the gate. It's still open. There's still a chance that fate will give me what I seek. Just one more chance. Maybe listen before taking a stance. I hear chattering voices in my mind. I let them go and feel myself unwind. I listen to you. You say what you need. I don't agree, but I give empathy. I hear your fear and your desperation. You push away while you crave connection. I see your well-worn mask for what it is, decades of protection from rejection. Maybe I will not go to hell today, just change course and maybe go another way. Listen to you and you listen to me, and we both identify what we need. Maybe we just give empathy. Maybe we can let it be. And just maybe we can feel peace. The next poem is Friends Like These. When the night is quiet and cold and everyone is fast asleep, my friends arrive and say, hello, don't go to bed. Oh, please don't go. Come play with us. We love you so. Some sing songs of love and love lost. Some tell stories of what the cost is to be true to oneself. A bit like elves, some nap on shelves. Some huddle over my shoulder and whisper their songs and stories, and I ask them to speak bolder, typing, saving in a folder. Sometimes I'm glad they visit me. Sometimes I wish they'd leave me be. I don't determine wrong or right. I take dictation and then say, thank you, elves, and to you, good night. Ugh, elves came to visit me last night. They promised to hand me the keys, unlock insights for the ages. They promised perfect poems, seductive songs, and soulful stories. Ugh, I gotta go to bed, I said, while seated in front of the keyboard, hands in my lap, forehead on the table. They plead and tell me that I'm able and capable. One more word, you can do it. One more word. They urge me on. I type one more word. Groggy mornings, after nights with elves. I pour coffee in my cereal bowl and plop oatmeal in my coffee mug. Ugh. The end.
Love it. That was fun, Teresa. Kathleen J. Pettit is an arts administrator, poet, and creative nonfiction writer. Currently, she is the vice president of the National League of American Penwomen, Minnesota branch, a member of the League of Minnesota Poets and Women of Words, and Federated Women's Club of Bloomington. She spends her time between Osakis, Shell City, and Bloomington, Minnesota. Welcome, Kate.
Hello. Well, poems. The first is called Water, and I was in a couple of years ago, I wrote this poem. I was in rather a retrospective state, thinking about what my life was, and I wrote a whole series of poems. This is one of them that I wrote. This is our story. It is about the gentle lapping of lake waves, the rustle of river over water-sanded rocks, the crescendo of ocean on shattered shell beaches, the sigh of shore grasses. It is our song. We danced on Mississippi mud, unaware of the current. We loved in rain, gave birth in water, swam amongst the floating branches, quenching our thirst with music. We have lived the blues and the accelerando of mountain streams. It was the steady rhythm of Earth's heartbeat that guided us through the roiling fog. It is the story of you. It is the song of me. It is about finding our way. And the second one that I have just am working on, I'm trying to figure out how to, well, it's a work in progress. And this was influenced by my 2-year-old granddaughter on a video yelling at her dad, "Dance with me." And then after spending 2 months with him at the beginning of COVID, living with the same granddaughter, I was inspired to write this poem. And it's called "Dance with Me, Daddy." "Dance with me, Daddy," she cries, twirling skirts of mummy's dresses, haloing blonde wispy tresses, arms palm trees swaying to breezes, feet creating mandalas. "Dance with me, Daddy," she cries. Music lives strongly in her. May the music never die. "Play with me, Daddy," she cries. Flowered shorts and torn t-shirts, tangled hair trapping leaves, toes tapping an ancient tale, worlds conquered with fantasy's flare. "Play with me, Daddy," she cries. Music lives strongly in her. May the music never die. "Sing with me, Daddy," she cries. Butterfly wings on supple shoulders, flowered crowns and flaxen hair, hands the phoenix rising, songs like whispering winds. Sing with me, Daddy," she cries. Music lives strongly with her. May the music never die.
Those are beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Nadia Jordana started writing poetry in junior high school, more to impress a boy who also wrote poetry than anything else. It didn't work then, and it doesn't work now, but she still writes poetry. Despite that, she eventually found a husband who could jot off the occasional poem he was willing to share with her, and he listens with intent and accolades when she reads hers. That's pretty much true. I've got a couple of poems to read. They don't really need an introduction, but they're out of my newest book, The Emerald Green Horse. Poems and Fishes. Poems are living things, swirling in a hazy neverland, waiting to be written into existence. There are so many around me this year, vying for their place in the scheme of things. They have personalities. Some are shy and secretive. They stay just out of reach, and I must be clever to catch them. Others boldly throw themselves at my feet, and I trip over them. Still more play games with my psyche, sometimes playful and quirky. Other times they get a little mean-spirited. I try to catch all of these fish-like beings, casting my line up into the ethers in the hopes that they'll bite. I reel them in one by one, flopping and gasping until they adjust to being three-dimensional and realize they belong to me. Only then can I tuck them into my creel, take them home for dinner, and eat them. They become part of me, pages in my books. I like thinking of poems as living things. I have one more to read. The Place from Where I Write. I'm fine out here on this ledge. Don't even think about talking me down. This is the place from where I write. From here, I can see the secret lives of my poems, the ones that won't lie down on paper. From here, sometimes I think I can hear the trees breathing. From here, I can smell the ocean 1,000 miles away. From here, I can almost touch the dark matter of the universe. From here, I can taste what it feels like to be whole. So don't talk me down. This is the place from where I write. Thank you. That's all, folks. Thank you, everybody, for coming and listening to us tonight. What a treat. And thank you, poets, for being here and reading your beautiful work. What a fun winter weekday evening.